Great. Good evening, everybody. A warm welcome to this webinar on Agentic AI coding. Let me quickly introduce myself. I am Professor Deepak Subramani. I'm a faculty in the Department of Computational and Data Sciences at the Indian Institute of Science. So I am here to talk to you for the next 30 to 45 minutes about what Agentic AI coding is all about. We are hearing this terminology of prompt engineering, context engineering, loop engineering, graph engineering, harness engineering, right? What is it all about, and how can you upskill yourself in learning? Perhaps this is perhaps the most important technology of 2026, and how you can upskill and get that going for you. Right? So that is the idea. So before we get full flow into the conversation, let me lay out a certain logistical parts here. So there is a chat as well as a Q&A window that is there in this webinar. So you can use the Q&A to post your questions, and I will be answering all your questions. You can also use chat to respond back to anything that you want to kind of say, and if something is not clear, right? So you want to do that. So please feel free to post it on the chat. I am monitoring the chat as well, and we will have sufficient time to answer all your questions, right? So that is the way forward. So let us look at what we are going to do today. So first I will discuss what is this agentic AI coding. So how does systems like Claude Code, Codex, Grok Code, all of these things, right? So how do they work? And what is it? And why you, as a working professional or a student, study this? And I will briefly go through the 6-week course that I'm offering for this agentic AI coding aspect. So you will get the recording for this session. I will share that with all people who have registered. So don't worry about it. So let's ask the question, right? So what is agentic AI coding? So you are all familiar with ChatGPT as a chat window system that you enter some text to it, you get some response text out of it. So that maybe you are familiar with that. So now you want agentic systems means it's a system that can go through your repository, can edit files, can run your tests, and decide on its own what next steps it should do. Like that is a powerful capability that agentic AI systems have. So we are now going to see, we are now in a world, right? So where AI has taken ability to replace a software developer to such an extent that the entire workforce is shifting, and how you can stay afloat in that we have to kind of see. So let us understand what an agent is. So agent is a language model powered artificial intelligence system. That's what an agent is. That has the ability to perceive, reason, and verify. Okay, so those are the three major blocks that an agent has ability to do, like perceive, reason, which includes planning and acting, and then verification and the ability to iterate this loop. Right? So perceive, reason, act, verify, perceive, reason, act, verify, iterate. That process. So what does perception mean? Perception means gathering the context, reading files, searching code bases, checking the Git state. Right? So that's the ability to see what is there. So we are looking at agent as a coding system. Reason, planning, and acting is when the agent decides that, okay, these are the steps that I would take to execute and complete certain requirements that the user has. And then when the agent takes an action, this could be something like writing function, writing a class, right? So those files and commands are what the agent can do. Once the agent writes a file, it has the ability to also run that file. And so let's say it's like a Python function that the agent writes, and then now the agent can run that Python file, get the output, and then feed each of that result back into the next decision. So that is the loop. So when the agent runs a file, it then looks for tests, inspects the differences between the action that it has taken, and then go ahead and do. Previously, this loop was being done by a human. Remember, maybe 1 year ago, when ChatGPT just came in, and you are like doing a coding task. And remember 3-4 years ago, when there was no AI system, like ChatGPT itself was not there, and how you are going about doing some coding task. So if you are a software developer, already you know what I'm talking about. If you are a student or you have been away from the software industry for a long time, it's like, okay, so if your professor gives you an assignment, how were you doing that in pre-2020? Between 2022, let's say, and 2025, and now, right? So 2026, like what is the major difference between these things? So in the pre-AI era, if you want to solve one problem, you would like type the problem that you're facing in Google search. And then maybe a Stack Overflow answer comes to that particular question that you are asking. And then you will see, maybe you will copy paste code from Stack Overflow. Maybe you will find some Git repo. You will then copy, and you will yourself try to understand reason why this is correct or not correct, and then implement those changes and go about doing that. So that's how you were doing things pre-AI. Once ChatGPT AI system came, when you are faced with a problem, you ask that question into the ChatGPT web interface. It's our Claude or ChatGPT web interface. And then ChatGPT or web interface will give you some response. It might generate some code, for example. And then you will copy that code and paste it in some developer engine, like integrated development environment that you might have, something like a VS Code, and then you will execute. And then some error might come. Then you will copy that error and paste it back into ChatGPT and say, oh, this error has come. Like, how do I fix this error? And then ChatGPT will give some solution, and you will copy that and come back. Right? So you were doing a loop where you, as a person, used to gather the context. You will read the file, search the code base, etc. And then you will say that, okay, I need to solve this particular problem as per the plan. So maybe if you are a software engineer, this would be the task that you have for that particular epic that you're supposed to do, like 14-day plan. And then you will take an action by saying, okay, I need to fill this particular function or particular class, and let me get the code from a language model. I will copy that, and then you will run it, find the errors, verify if it works or not work. If it doesn't work, you will then copy that error and paste it back to the language model and see like what happens. So that reasoning, planning, and iteration, you as a human were doing that. So that was between, let's say, 2022 and 2025. And then in around 2025, the harness system came. That is a system that runs this loop on its own until a goal is satisfied. That is, coding now became a fully autonomous task where you can provide a goal. Right? So you can provide the goal and let the system run on its own initiative until this goal is satisfied. This is a very powerful capability, right? So now the agent can perceive, reason, plan, and act on its own. It can verify its own results and do this loop until the goal is satisfied. So you just provide the goal, and the agent self chooses the steps and action that it needs to do and how it verifies. This property, even though it is very powerful, it is also very damaging quickly if you don't do it correctly. So a scientific approach is necessary for handling this agentic AI coding To build software that will last beyond one particular session, you require agentic AI coding. And this agentic AI coding is by far the most essential skill that engineers, researchers, students can develop in 2026. So what is the thing, right? So that made this agentic coding possible. The thing that made agentic coding possible is what we are calling as an agentic harness. What is a harness? So you are all familiar, I think, with the horse harness. Right? So it's basically if you have a horse cart or a bullock cart for that matter, the harness is the system that connects that cart to the animal that runs that cart. So that's what a harness is. Same with the car, right? So if you have an engine, the harness is what connects that engine through the transmission and gives power to the wheels. So that is what the harness is all about. So a harness converts raw power into directed work. Like a specific cart along a specific road, that is what a harness is all about. In the coding environment, this harness is what controls the language model and leverages the raw power that the language models have to achieve certain goals that you set out for yourself. That is what is a harness. A harness is that software layer, just like how a harness connects the horse, a horse harness connects the horse to the cart, or a bullock ox to the cart, right? So bullock cart, or in a car, it connects the engine to the wheels. That's what a harness is. In the agentic AI systems, a software layer, right? So that the model then has access to the tools, memory, execution loop, so that together the harness plus your model is capable to do perception, reasoning, planning, acting, verification, and iteration loop. That's what an agentic harness is all about. And using that agentic harness for achieving coding tasks. Right? So developing software is what is called as agentic AI coding. So harness is Claude Code is a harness. Codex is a harness. These are terminal-based harnesses. Cursor, anti-gravity, these are agentic IDEs, integrated development environment. These are harnesses. Devin, VS Code, these are all agentic harnesses that are there. Today, the same pattern also comes to non-coding environments. Something like Claude Work or ChatGPT Work, Claude Design. These are all now harnesses, Claude Signs. These are all harnesses that have been designed for specific tasks which are not coding related. Claude Design is an agentic harness that has been developed for doing creative work like preparing your marketing blurb, creating a slide deck, the colors, the fonts, etc. in a slide deck. For that matter, the slide deck that I am showing you, the fonts, the colors, the contrast, etc., was developed using Claude Design. So I guide Claude Design to come out with fonts, colors, sizes, etc. that I want, that matches my personality, and then create the creatives. Earlier, these creatives were done using some marketing team, right? Like some marketing professionals, copyright professionals. They used to sit like design folks, right? They will sit and make fonts, colors, etc. match with what the brand identity is. So today, anybody, right? So can have access to this through Claude Design, which is an agentic harness. Right? So Copilot Studio, or there are several such harnesses, right? Agentic harnesses for coding is like Claude Code, Codex, Cursor, Anti-Gravity. These have become very, very powerful that people have developed harnesses for other systems also. That's the primary message. We can leverage this agentic AI coding harness to develop software at a rate and scale that we have never seen before. And even people with absolutely no coding background are able to develop websites, applications, and run businesses that were not possible previously for such folks. So essentially, there are 5 major layers of engineering that combine together. You might have heard people telling about prompt engineering, context engineering, loop engineering, graph engineering, and nowadays harness engineering. Actually, these are all just different stages of the exact same thing. That is a scientific way of working with coding agents. So it starts with a prompt, which is basically one message, how you state the goal, right? So it matters, like what your wording, what your examples, format, what to include, what to leave out. So this is what one prompt. In a turn is defined as you give a message to the LLM language model, and the language model returns a response. That is called as one turn. Your input to the language model is called as a prompt. And the agent's response, right? So is what the agent outputs, is the output of the agent. So that completes one turn. Now you can get more out of that one turn if you give sufficient context to the agent. So if you give sufficient context, it means the model can now see some memory, how you operate as a person, how files are stored in your computer, what tools are available for it. All of that becomes as the context. Now a context with a prompt running one after the other in a loop structure, turn by turn, it autonomously runs, where the agent itself decides when to act, when to verify, and when to stop. And a human just sits to give approval of, okay, this looks right or not. That is called as loop system. So one task can be completed in one loop. Several tasks in several loops together form what is called as graph. So this is how an agent and tools are wired into a full workflow. And the whole system that has the language model, it can run graphs, loops, it provides context, prompts, etc., is the harness. So prompt engineering was what this field was maybe 12 months ago. Not 12, 18 months ago. Context engineering was like 15 months ago. Loop engineering was like 12 months ago. Graph engineering is 6 months ago. Harness engineering is as of today. But essentially, they are all scientific ways of working with coding agents. So if you learn the scientific approach, which we are calling as the specification-driven development approach, whatever be the terminology that changes, right? So tomorrow somebody comes and calls it some other XYZ engineering. If you learn the core principle of the specification-driven development, you are now ready to work with any of the XYZ engineering that people come out with as a name for the scientific way of working with agents to perform coding. At this point, we need to make a distinction between what is endearingly called as vibe coding and what I am proposing as a scientific method of developing code called a spec-driven development or specification-driven development. In a vibe coding situation, you provide a prompt in a conversational manner, the agent writes code, then who knows whether it looks right or not, you will copy paste that code, run it in your system, and then whatever error comes, you push it back. After like some 10, 20 turns of discussion between you and the agent, you have no clue where what you wanted to do and what you ended up with. This works only for small, low friction tasks that are like throwaway scripts. Anything meant to last will not survive this approach of vibe coding, which most people do. For things to last beyond one session, we have to take what is called as a specification-driven development approach. It takes some time for us to learn what specification-driven development approach, and hence we are offering this course. I will quickly tell you what specification-driven development approach is. In the specification-driven development approach, you start with a goal. What is the kind of system that you want to develop? And it can be multiple goals, not just one goal, right? It can be like 10 goals that you want to achieve. You codify all of that into a specification. So if you are a software developer already, this is what client discussions lead to. Like you will discuss with clients, do requirement gathering, and write down the specifications that are necessary. Then you let the agentic harness like Claude Code or Codex do the planning. You approve the plan, code, pass test, and then it goes through the loop. The very important thing here is how the specification is written and then how you go about doing the planning. The mental model that we have to learn rather, is to look at the mental model that you are the architect. You write the specification. You review the decisions. You decide what is correct and what is wrong. You say that, okay, these are the what I require my website to have. My website should have the ability to have integration with the payment gateway. The payment gateway should work in such a way that double payments are avoided. So that is a specification that you write. And then the decision, how you review it is by doing testing. So you write some unit tests. Okay? So, and then that specification and test are done together by the agent who is now the contractor. The agent will plan, build, and report back. That's all an agent will do. It's like you decide to do a interior work for your house. You will call or you try to build a house. So you call a contractor. You will tell the contractor everything that you need, the interior designer or the architect who is working with you. You tell everything, right? And make that what you require to the contractor. Now the contractor will simply plan, build, and report back. Some mistake that people who are trying to cut costs, let's say, for doing their own house would do is they will only ask the contractor to say what is the how your kitchen should look like, and the contractor will do something like that. Is vibe coding, right? Like the contractor will do. Specification driven development approach is you as an architect sit with a designer and write down all the things that you want in your kitchen or you want in your house, and then you give that to the contractor who is the agent, and the agent goes ahead and builds it completely. The spec is like a contract. The skill that you have to learn in 2026 is how can you give precise goals that clear the pass criteria very, very correctly. So that as a whole, you and your agent can build sustainable software for you to ship and make business out of it. Now, this specification-driven development idea, Professor, did you come out with this, right? So, or is this what everybody is doing, and what tools are available? In fact, actually, the specification-driven development is what we have distilled out of the system that everybody has converged on. Like GitHub has something called as a spec kit. AWS has something called Cairo. Claude Code exists. ChatGPT code exists. Cursor, Devin. All of these folks have different tools that standardizes on the 5 phases that I described, like the 5 phases of prompting, specification, planning, coding, verification. That 5 phases is what we have to now learn. Right? So, and each of these tools implements the exact same principles of specification-driven development, which is the scientific way of doing agentic AI coding. Now, all of that is fine. So how do you learn, right? So that was a map. So how do we go through this map? We need to decide what makes a specification an agent can actually build against. Like how do you write good specifications? Like what does a good specification look like? What is meant by acceptance criteria? What is a good test? What is meant by project memory, skills? What is a sub-agent? What are hooks? What are MCP servers? These are the mechanics by which a specification can be converted to a deployed software. How can we orchestrate many agents in one session without collisions? How can we run the whole workflow end to end? The code is getting developed and you go out for a run. You provide your specification, you ask your agent to do things, and you go out for one run. You come back and you see that the software has been developed. How can you get into such a workflow? And then how do you basically evaluate coding agents and agentic AI systems, right? So that is, in fact, a separate topic on its own called as AI evaluations. So these are all the things that you have to learn. So let me spend 5 minutes in discussing why should we study this in a scientific manner and like why can't we just vibe our way through things. So the job market is shifting. Earlier, it involved writing code, reviewing those lines. You have to develop some personal habits, right? So of writing good code hygiene, and then you ship features. So those skills are now getting converted to specifying outcomes. In fact, I would argue that specifying outcomes correctly and saying what is done correctly is becoming a very scarce skill. And if you learn that correctly, like specification-driven development correctly, I think you will be head and shoulders above the competition that you will face. Then you have to review trajectories, right? So you have to read plans correctly and figure out problems as and when they arrive, right? So that you can work with the code base. This requires discipline. It's very easy to get offset by personal habits that are not aligned with spec-driven development approach. So what are the rules that matter? It is not about remembering syntax anymore. Like you don't have to remember syntax. That era is gone. You have to develop some other types of discipline, right? So how specifications are done, how to resist the urge to not vibe your way through when you find problems. And finally, I guess this is one part that many people skip, and what we will focus on is owning what shipped. Whoever commits agent-written code must be able to answer questions about what got committed. This becomes very important in ownership of who developed the software and ensuring that the software is sustainable in the long term. So these are all skills that we will develop, and we have to develop rather, to be good in your work going forward, or it is already like this in 2026 for most people. The last point I would like to double down upon that, working code is actually not an evidence of your understanding. This is especially relevant to if there are students attending this meeting. So if you are a student, not yet graduated with any degree, this becomes very important for you. Because a session can pass every test, while the person who approved each plan never truly follows why the model landed on that architecture. So passing tests in the specification-driven development approach shows that code behaves correctly, but it says nothing about whether the reviewer could have written or debugged it unaided. A Association of Computing Machinery report says that people who lean on generated code without engaging with it lose the ability that assessments and what ultimately employers want you to do kind of lose it. So there are actually ways to get over it, and there are habits that you have to develop along the way to ensure that you close this gap. That is, you close the gap between working code and your evidence of understanding. So this does not require new tooling, but it requires habits that we will develop. Right? So we have to develop. There are reasons why you must develop this skill of working with agentic coding very, very deliberately and not let it just pass. Like why you have to learn it in a principled manner, because adoption is already here. Software, in fact, if you look at top companies, much of their software is actually agentic written today. This is actually not the future, right? This is the present. You might already be aware. And demos are not workflows, right? So a short demo, like looking at one YouTube video and like making one short demo is no longer sufficient. Demos do not teach you what the plan is, why is it wrong, why is the spec ambiguous. So we have to take a very, very great approach, right? So a scientific approach to solving this. And this discipline that you will develop, right? So that you have to develop, right? So specifying, planning, etc., etc. You have to learn it once and it survives with you, whichever harness your employer standardizes on next. This is another problem, right? Like you might learn on one harness, you might get used to that environment, and your employer in the future moves to another harness. Right. So what are the habits that you have to develop along the way so that you can do better in the future? Finally, judgment is the differentiating factor. Taste, as they call. So knowing when to write code, knowing when to do specification-driven development. These are all skills that you have to develop deliberately, sitting down and understanding it very, very clearly. Let me ask you some questions, right? A task is halfway between a prototype and production. So do you know write code or you write a specification? And like, what do you do? Let's say an agent just touched 40 files and every test passes. Like, what do you review? Like, in what order do you have to do? A test fails because the specification was ambiguous. Like, what do you change now? Like, what must you not change? These are all real interview questions, right? Like what that employers and clients today ask. Your agent needs a rule that must hold every single time. So where does this rule live? Like where do you have to put it in your agentic harness? You are asked to define an architecture an agent chose for you, and this becomes very important for students, right? So how do you find out what the explanation is? Like if you feel these questions are something that somebody has asked you, but you are not able to answer it, this is precisely the gap that we have to fill. Okay, so these are the questions that we must be able to answer. If you are able to answer these questions, well and good, right? So you are already there in the agentic AI coding realm. But if you are not, this is the gap that we must actually fill. So let me go through the mechanics of the course very quickly. It's actually a 6-week course. So whatever I described to you so far is what an agentic coding harness is, what agentic AI coding is all about, and what are the skills that you must develop to be a successful agentic AI coding professional. So to achieve that, you're free to learn it from wherever you want to. But we are offering a course, which is the agentic AI coding from specification to deployment course through the IISc Center for Continuing Education, which starts in the September 1st week and goes on till October mid. About 6 weekends of lectures on Saturdays and Sundays. It is fully 100% online, live on Zoom, with the sessions are recorded and shared with you, so that even if you miss one session, like you can catch up. The program is a hands-on program for people who want to study and implement whatever I have described so far to build, ship, and operate real AI agents, from writing a specification to deploying a full stack application. So at the end of the course, all of you will have your own deployed software that you have written using specification-driven development approach. This is a certification program, right? So a certificate will be issued from the Indian Institute of Science Center for Continuing Education for participants who finish the course and the final project. That is the 6-week course has a certificate attached with it. So what is the detailed syllabus? Weekend by weekend, what we will go into is, we'll start with what is agentic AI, the levels of autonomy. So the agentic coding harness that I spoke to you about is what is called as a level 3 autonomy. So there are level 1 and level 2 autonomy. For several software engineering tasks, level 1 or 2 might be sufficient for you. So we need to understand what are the levels of autonomy, what is an augmented LLM call, what is an agentic workflow, what is a single agent system, what is a multi-agent system, what are fully autonomous agents. All of that we will understand, like what is agentic AI, what is generative AI, that we will understand in the first week. Then we will go into harnesses and specification-driven development. We'll go into the mechanics of writing high-quality specifications and writing correct tests for real projects. Then we'll go ahead and build full end-to-end web application with agentic coding. This is where your self-project also begins, right? So about September 19-20 weekend. Then we will discuss how to perform testing, what is called a CI/CD, continuous integration, continuous deployment, and look at deployment on a cloud system. So we'll do a full continuous integration cloud deployment of the application that you build in the third week. Then we'll go into principled evaluations, right? So how to do AI evals of the software agent that you deployed previously. And finally, I'll give you high-level system design ideas and the projects that you build, right? So there will be some demos of that. Okay. So what will you learn and how will you use it? How coding agents plan, execute, and self-correct across multiple tasks, not just single short completions, full agentic coding environment. We'll do real workflows with today's agentic coding tools. We'll show tool use, orchestration, and you can build a agentic software platform on your own. The tools that we will use, we'll work with Claude Code and Anthropic API. We will also show ChatGPT, OpenAI's APIs. Gemini and Gemma, it's not as good as Claude Code and ChatGPT, so we may not use Gemini, Gemma. We'll see that. Then we look at LangChain, Agent Development Kit. We look at Model Context Protocol, and we will actually not do a Python React Fast API. We will not learn the syntax of these things, but we will use all of these, like Python, React, Fast API, Docker, Vercel, Vector Database, all of these things. We will develop software using these tools in spec-driven development approach. Okay? That is, we are in 6 weeks, definitely we are not going to learn all about Python, React, Fast API, etc. We will use agentic AI coding system to develop software with that. Right? So that's what we will end up doing. So who this course is for? It's for software professionals in product or services, or if you are an engineer, not a software engineer, right? Like you are, let's say, a mechanical engineer working in, or a chemical engineer working in a process industry, and you want to supercharge your work with AI. You have not developed software ever in your life, but you are a very good engineer in another discipline. This course will do very well for you. You are in a startup team or a national lab, or your academic researchers looking at supercharging your whatever you are doing using AI. So that would be right. You can be a UG, PG student, research student, or staff. So you are just learning. So you learn this tool and apply it whatever you want to do. It doesn't matter what your coding background is, right? So you are a career break returner, you're a hobby developer, you are a retired professional, you are just somebody aspiring to join the AI industry, right? So, and that is what it is. So the eligibility is, if you have students are welcome, right? So the BTech, BCA, BCom, whatever be your background, you can come ahead and learn. But you must definitely have a genuine interest in software development, right? So you must have an interest in using AI to supercharge your work. That is necessary. No prior specific AI/ML background is required, right? So in this particular course, we will not study what a language model is or look at attention, transformer, math. Those things we will not be looking at. We'll be looking at agentic AI coding specifically and what agentic coding systems you can do. So the requirements would be to have a laptop, right? So with at least 8 GB RAM, a stable internet connection. You do not require GPUs. Most likely we will use Zoom or Teams. One of these two we will use. That we will inform you if you join the course. You would need a GitHub account and a subscription to one of the Claude Pro or ChatGPT Plus. That would be necessary. And some free tier cloud account. So that Vercel or some other free tier account is sufficient. How to enroll, right? So enrollment is in the CCE website. So you've been shared with the brochure in the chat. I will go through all the questions in the chat and the Q&A very shortly. So you create an account in the cce.iisc.ac.in registration. You have to update your profile with some biodata information. Then you have to search for the course like Agentic AI coding. In that, you have to click on apply now on the course page and then follow the on-screen instructions, right? So that is what it is. So the seats are first come, first served basis, right? So if you have decided that this is something that you want to do, please do that. If you have questions about the course content, you can send an email to questlab@iisc@gmail.com. If you have questions about admissions, etc., you can write to office.cce@iisc.ac.in. So once you enroll, what do you get? So by about next week or so, before the course starts, we will you will get an access to the class communication channel where we will share the study material. So there's a new textbook that I have written. So it's not yet out, but you will be the first batch of students to get this textbook with hands-on guides about how to do agentic coding systems. And we'll send you all the setup information, everything like very nicely bundled together. You will get that. After every session, you will get recording notes and highlights or summary for each class. And if you are preparing for a job interview, etc., to help you, there will be weekly practice problems so that you can stay on top of things. And you can book one-on-one or many-on-one office hours. Like there will be some slots that we will have as an AI clinic slot, office hours, where if you want some advice on your project, that will be available as an AI clinic per se. The course also involves a project that you will do in a 3-week period. You can bring your own project, or you can do a project from the list that we provide. So that is what it is. So if you are ready to build with agentic AI, the tools are already there. The discipline is what turns it into engineering. And that discipline is what this agentic AI coding course that we are offering from September 5 to October 10 weekend will offer you, right? So if there are questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Let me go through the chat. First, I'll start with the Q&A. So what is the number of seats for the course? So you can apply and it's like first come, first served basis. Like there's no fixed number per se. I have ChatGPT Plus and I use Codex. Do I need to get Claude Pro also? No, you don't need to. Like you can work with ChatGPT Plus. That is sufficient. I'm going to the Q&A first, then I will come to the chat. Okay. How is agent different from agentic harness? And is that provided by LLM or provided by agentic framework? So agentic harness is like the cart and that arrow, the connection between the horse, let's say, and your horse cart. Right? So that is what a harness is. It guides the power of the horse into a steady motion. Right? That's what harness is. So agentic coding harness is what guides and controls the language model's reasoning ability towards developing software or doing any other work. Right? So that's what an agentic framework harness is all about. In 2026, I am in batch third year student. Like I am able to understand everything, but still fear to write code. But can't complain. Okay, it's a very big question. Good. So let me see the chat. When the loop will break in agentic AI, what are the different scenario agent will break the loop? Very good question. So agent will break the loop if it has completed the solution or it hit a maximum number of iterations that is preset. So why an agent comes into the picture is because the loop number we don't put, but usually we say that, okay, some maximum number of iterations if it crosses, then maybe agent has to stop. Can an agent do one goal at a time? You can assign multiple goals to the agent and it will create a plan to achieve all goals, and you have to do that plan correctly and then go about doing it. It is a request to schedule the class from 8 to 9. So this first cohort is, we have scheduled it on Saturday, Sunday in the morning. Recordings are available. So even if one day is working for you, you can read the recording. There are 6 weekends of classes. So today is just a webinar session. The full course is going to start from 5 September. Will this deck and recording be shared? Yeah, the recording, I will put it on YouTube and share it with you. Will the certificate, this introductory webinar is like free webinar, right? Like there is no certificate associated with it, right? So it's, you can enroll for the Center for Continuing Education course on the CCE website. So our CCE person Akanksha has shared Dr. Akanksha shared the link with you, right? So you can go ahead and do that. The course syllabus is I explained to you, right? Do you need a technical background to do the course? A commerce background, you are most welcome, right? Like we want people from non-technical backgrounds to be able to develop software. That's what agentic coding will do. But you should have some interest in using coding environments, using Python, etc. Like you should not be scared of that. Right? Like if you're scared of that, maybe it's not the right thing for you. But if you are willing to put in the effort and time, then it's good. Is this for software application or also for low level firmware? So we will teach the principles using software development, but nothing prevents you from using the same principles for firmware development, embedded software development. But we will not touch upon those in the course. Which tool are we going to use? We'll use Claude. I will show you using Claude Code. You can use Claude Code, ChatGPT Pro, and be done with it. How to optimize or control token cost? Absolutely. We have a full session on how to efficiently and effectively use tokens. So that we will do. Is it possible to conduct one weekend at IISc? So this is first cohort, so we are not planning the logistics of that. So we'll see how the online courses goes. You are definitely free, welcome to come to the campus and collect your certificate at the end. So that you can do. Like, we will not have like a session per se, right? Like you can come to the CCE office and collect the certificate. Do we have to create plan.md? Yeah. So that is the first step that you will have to do. So earlier you had to. So Ankush question is like, do you have to create or will the agent create? So about 2 months ago, you had to write the plan.md file, but as of today, the agent will write the plan.md file also for you. So we will look at how to work with that. How is it helpful for mechanical product design engineers? We still use traditional. Exactly, right? So if you want to learn the automated way of developing software that can work with your CAD systems, then this is the right approach. Does the agent and harness have context limitation? How context is different? Yeah. So we have to learn how to manage the context, right? So there are certain things within the agentic coding harness that you have to do to manage context correctly, right? So that we will do. Will there be project work? Individual project? Yes. There will be an individual project that you can do. I'm working on autonomous approach to develop and maintain applications with power of agentic AI. So first step I have been using upgrading. Will the course? Yes, definitely it will help. Which is good, ChatGPT or Claude? It's a personal choice per se. Both are equally good. I've been using Claude Code for a long time, so that is what maybe. Okay. So that's what it is. I think I have gone through all the questions. Okay, good. So take care. If you think this is something that is of interest to you, please do sign up and go for it. If there are any other questions, I'm happy to answer them. We can spend another 5-6 more minutes. What are the job designations one can expect from this? See, I'm going to give you a general advice. Doing one course or one thing will not give you some job designation per se, right? You have to develop skills that are relevant for the market today. So at the Center for Continuing Education at IISc, we only offer courses where you can upskill yourself, right? So we teach the same thing to our regular students, right? So you can write GATE, come and do the courses here, absolutely fine. This is a outreach program, right? So where we are reaching people who may not have the time to write GATE, come write join courses, etc. Right? So this is a service that we are providing that way. So in that sense, it is like just by doing this, like some designation can I expect may not be, but you will be ready for being a agentic AI software developer, right? Or software developer with agentic AI. Like you'll be ready for the new world that we are in. Right? So what job titles that leads to is completely up to you. Okay, good. So if that's it, then take care. There are no further questions. I would be okay. Great. Thank you. How much LLM knowledge is required for this course? So you don't need to know the inner working of the language model, right? So we will look at a language model as a software system that has the ability to reason and give you the answers that you want to look for. Okay, okay, great. Take care then. Bye. Provide information on capstone project. See, there's no capstone project. There is only a course project, which is like an individual project that you will develop using specification-driven development approach. You can bring your own project, or I will give you a list of projects and you can choose one from that and then do. Do you have to pay extra for Claude? So yeah, it is not included in the course. You have to get it on your own. With zero coding knowledge from healthcare background, is this course applicable? If you are interested in taking your healthcare skills and converting that into agentic software products for your end users and you are committed to developing that skill, absolutely course is useful. I have no idea what lovable AI is, right? So if you keep posting it, I'm not able to answer that question. So list the project names, right? So project is something that you build, right? So you bring your own project and you build it. Like it could be simply developing your own personal website or developing something like Swiggy, some e-commerce website, for example. It could be that. It could be customer care support system. It could be airline pricing system. It could be a travel advisor. Lot of options are there. You can bring your own project or we will give you a list where you can pick one project. Okay. All right. So I think we are at 8 o'clock. Thanks a lot for listening in, and I hope to see some of you at least in the course. Okay, thank you. Take care. Bye.